Hello horror fam and welcome to my hack shack located right here in Los Angeles. My name is Johnny and I support horror. This week I finally got to watch Blood Vessel. It takes place in 1945 towards the tail end of World War II. It involves dead Nazis, vampires, and this big spooky German ship. I feel that's the perfect recipe for one hell of a horror film. It doesn't get much more evil than vampires and Nazis. For this movie, I did watch the trailer and that's what got me hyped up to see it. So let's get into it, horror fam. Blood Vessel is a horror movie written and directed by Justin Dix. D-I-X, Dix. Like I said, the year is 1945, towards the tail end of World War II, and the survivors of a torpedoed hospital ship are all cramped together on a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean with no food or water. All hope seems to be lost. That is until a huge German ship eerily started making its way towards the lifeboat. Having no other options available, these survivors board the ship, willing to risk their lives because they have no idea if it's been inhabited by Nazis or not. After boarding, they realize that they're alone and something sinister has happened to all the people that were on the boat before them. As they investigate, they find a number of burnt and decaying bodies, some treasure, and old Nazi occult artifacts. They have no idea that something evil is hibernating on the ship, just waiting to be awakened. Okay, first, I like that all of these characters are from different walks of life, but at least they share one commonality, and that's war. There's different races, genders, there's one woman, and they all hail from different parts of the globe. We have one character that's from Russia, we have an American, an Australian, we have someone from the UK. And these characters all had different jobs in the war. You know, we had someone that was a cook, but we also had someone that was British intelligence. So we have this crew of survivors with many differences that all have to work together to defeat evil. With this scenario, you have many opportunities for conflict as ego and status can get in the way of completing their mission, which just ends up being to survive. I thought the first 20 minutes was great at building anticipation. You have this ragtag crew that's overcrowding this small lifeboat about to board this massive German ship, not knowing if they're going to be gunned down by a million Nazis on board or what, but they're going to take their chances. It was them climbing on board that ship that hooked me right in, because it's like, what the hell were they gonna find on there? As the story began to move forward, I really liked what they found on board. Not giving anything away here, and like I said earlier, they find a gang of just dead bodies and this really cool Nazi occult artifacts, I guess you could call them. Not saying Nazis are cool, they're terrible people, but just saying the things that they found, including this 2 caskets that had skulls etched into them and quite a bit of treasure. Which leads me to my favorite part of the movie, and it's just simply the setting and atmosphere. A lot of you already know I love ghost ships. In my opinion, it's like one of the best locations to shoot a horror movie. It can feel claustrophobic at times. Usually there's like some sort of evil history on it, so you can feel that presence. Not to mention you're surrounded by this vast ocean with nowhere to go. As these survivors were navigating the ship, it really felt like they were going through a maze at Halloween Horror Nights or something. These decomposing bodies that they came across were just burnt to a crisp and just really gnarly to look at. The practical effects in this movie was really well done because you could tell they took the time to make these bodies look decrepit. Everything from the texture to the color of the skin, they just nailed all the details. Even the lighting they used was really awesome. The cool blue and greens already gave off this really eerie and cold atmosphere. And it looked so good contrasted against the vampire red lighting that they had on the ship as well. So as far as the atmosphere, set, props, all of it solid. So now let's talk vampires, because there was 2 of them on the ship that just wreak havoc on our survivors. And these weren't the sexy sparkling vampires that you saw in Twilight that played baseball. Not hating, just saying. No, these vampires had a more monster vibe to them, kind of a nod or throwback to Nosferatu. To be honest though, my first impression of the main vampire when I first saw him, I was like, oh dude, that looks like a guy with a really good mask on from the Spirit Halloween store. As the movie went on though, I think the mask got better looking, like less like a prop and more like a real kind of demonic vampire, because I think its face was getting wet I don't know why. It started to look better throughout like the middle and towards the end of the movie. Don't get me wrong, I still thought it was really cool looking, but I feel like the makeup effects team probably could have worked a little bit more on the vampires' masks. Another thing that I felt lacking was the scares and action in the second and third acts. On one hand, there's only so much you can do, right? I mean, this whole movie takes place on this ship. However, this is an incredibly awesome setting that just should have been utilized more for the scares and contained action. I feel like if the vampires took more of a front-facing role and went after all of our survivors themselves, this movie would have been better. I don't want to give anything away, but these vampires do have special powers that allow them to attack our survivors without really being front-facing, if that makes sense. Overall, I really like the anticipation of our survivors getting on board and discovering these dark, ancient Nazi occult secrets that were hidden on the ship. I personally wish they would have explained the backstory of these vampires and the treasures and just went more in depth with it than they did. And I wanted our antagonists, these demon vampires, to be more hands-on with our characters. Even though I feel there's room for improvement with the story, I still feel like this movie had heart. It just emulated a fun, true blue horror film regardless of the execution. So yes, I do recommend that you watch Blood Vessel, even though I feel it could have been a lot better. Okay, horror fan, that is all for me today. Once again, thank you so much for coming by my channel, watching this video, watching all my videos. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, I hope you do so now, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And let's be friends to the end, people. You know you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Horror Hack. Once again, my name is Johnny. Keep supporting horror, and this has been one hack of a show.